put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates, and I am your guest host for this week, Adana Combi, and we're going right back into it. But before we go into it, those of you who are making it to work this morning, it's now 7:19 a.m. You have the kids to drop off to school, and you have to get to work for 8 o'clock. So you need to be on the streets by now. Take your time, drive safely, and get there on time, get your children to school on time. This morning, I'm chatting with Mr. Allan Stewart. He's the director of T.E.M.A, which is the Tobago Emergency Management Agency with responsibility of disaster preparedness, if I'm correct.
Right.
And we're here today to talk about the anniversary and the things they do for us here on the island of Tobago. Good morning, Mr. Stewart, and welcome to our program.
Good morning, ma'am. It's good to be here. It's always a pleasure being on the updates. So I'm very pleased to join you guys to extend what we are doing here in Tobago to the rest of the wider public, even locally, nationally, and internationally.
That's right.
I know you have that type of spread.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. At the Tobago Updates. Now, what I want to know is, we know that the T.E.M.A is responsible for the management of disaster preparedness and stuff like that, but just give us a little bit of insight as to what exactly your role is in Tobago.
Our role is one that is very clear. Our mission stands for we have a mission that speaks clearly, that defines our major mandate, which is to coordinate a network of agencies and individuals to direct their efforts towards the maximum preservation of life and the protection of property during times of disaster. So that, in essence, is our mission.
Right, and I know that I think the CERT is under your purview.
Correct. It's a child of T.E.M.A,
right.
Which is embedded in the community. I think all of this needs to be in context.
Right.
You know, just around the same period that the UN, the United Nations International Disaster Risk Reduction Program begun, CERT saw its birth.
Right.
Coming out of two major events, one in 2004, or two in 2004. We had the November severe weather, and we had Hurricane Ivan in the same year in 2004, or tropical storm, as we were impacted as a tropical storm. Followed by that, in 2005, the island again was impacted by another hydrometeorological event in 2005, tropical storm Emily. And by that time, we were convinced, coming out of, fresh out of an international conference, we were looking for answers.
Right.
And therefore, CERT was one of those answers. Speaking to those days were the Hydro Framework for Action. And one of those major pillars was always looking at the community in a particular manner. And that was our answer to that mandate. It must be pointed out that the Tobago Emergency Management Agency, which is a unit within the Office of the Chief Secretary, does not operate. It operates by a number of mandates, and not just locally, but regionally, and also international. So there are those international mandates that are projected by the UN that speaks to a number of issues that, we ourselves needs to be very, very, very comfortable with.
Right.
It guides policy in terms of what we do at the policy level, and also from an operational level. It allows our affiliates, such as our stakeholders, the members of the TDMC, to all function within that realm and understand that disaster risk is something that we have to embrace as a meaningful way of surviving on the planet.
Right, because I'm happy that you mentioned all of this, because disasters aren't indigenous to Tobago only.
That's right.
We experience disasters all over the world.
Correct.
So the fact that we have all these external agencies who are part of a governing body, if I could put it that way, that kind of guides the process, that kind of gives some level of direction as to the standards and the things that we need to implement to protect our own spaces where we reside. Is that what you're saying? Something like that?
Certainly.
Yes.
What you have found over the years is that these over 168 countries across the world have bought into what we now know as a Sendai Framework. That is something that was birthed in 2015 in Japan, Sendai in Japan. And therefore, as we move forward, we embrace these mandates. We feel very comfortable backed by, I was heartened just a couple of weeks ago, I met the chief secretary in a building down at Shaw Park, and he said to me, Stuart, I have signed off on the MCR. When we ask, what is the MCR?
Right.
Making Cities Resilience. Just last year, around May, the United Nations, and I want to point out that these international bodies are looking at Tobago. They are looking at what we have been doing.
Wow.
There are adaptations. They are adopting some of our principles, some of the things that we do. We consider it to be best practices as we, because we are guided by these mandates and therefore we embrace them. And, I felt very heartened to hear the chief secretary pointing that out to me, because I was very concerned as to sometimes you buy into a mandate, but if there is no executive buy-in, you have challenges because everybody is not walking the same walk or talking the same talk. So the vision of it immediately came through sometime last year around May, where we sought to see a transform Tobago, a Tobago that is resilient, a Tobago that is adaptive, people-centered, a Tobago that is driven by, looking at sustainably developing products and services in a particular way, driven by, the attitude towards leveraging the resources available to us. So you could have, as an outcome, a resilient Tobago. And that is our mandate, to move in a direction where we can see our systems are being strengthened. Resiliency is what it's all about.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It has to be, because the fact that the UN has approved and started adopting some of the things that you've been implementing, it gives me confidence in this agency. It gives me a lot of confidence in this agency, and Tobago people can be rest assured that we are doing our best to ensure when disaster strikes, we are prepared, we are ready, and that maximum lives and property will be preserved.
Yeah. Let me just point out, because I know the clock is running, and I'll be belt if I didn't mention, our 25th anniversary.
I was just coming to that to tell me about the 25th anniversary and the things you all have planned.
There's a songwriter, a Calypsonian, I wouldn't risk trying to say who it was, but I remember the Calypso that sang, 25 years have passed, how you feel it? And therefore, I am a very proud person, and that concern and that feeling is emanating by our 25th anniversary, where we look to celebrate our gains. We need to recognize the hurdles and the path that we took. 25 years ago, I remember the Executive Council. The Trinidad and Tobago have learned, and the Caribbean have learned a lot from the impacts of hazards across the region. I remember just around that time, in the 9th of March, 1998, by Executive Minute number 64, give birth to the what we knew as NEMA in Tobago, the NEMA Tobago. Before that, what I saw was happening is that I was part of a committee, is known today as the Tobago Disaster Management Committee. It was a committee where I remember my grandmother used to say, beg water, don't boil cattle skin. And we had just came out of what you call a 1997 event. I'm not sure if you remember that event.
I don't know, but let me bring it on.
Yeah, in 1997, we had two major events that shifted the landscape of Tobago.
That earthquake,
yes. And we are in that month as well.
Yes.
So in 1997, and we saw two earthquakes happening, one last week and one maybe within the last 24 hours, just around close to Antigua. But around the 2nd of April, an earthquake, I think it was a 5.1 earthquake, impacted the island, and then followed by a 5.9 on the 22nd of April, 1997. I'm saying this to make the point that when you pay attention carefully to whatever development we have made during those years, we recognize that hazards, the impact of hazards, have influenced Tobago's posture and what may consider to be the ethos of Tobago. You know, you go around the country, you will hear on one side of the country somebody saying, God is a Trini. And then you will hear the Tobago praying people. We never adopted God as being a Tobagonian, but we look at it as Tobagonians are praying people. We understand exactly, because we have been burnt many times. So we came out of the experience in 1963, where 18 persons lost their lives as a result. Over 75% of our agricultural products and services and estates were destroyed by Hurricane Flora in 1963. And I was making the point as to what happened in 2004 and then followed by the next year in 2005. So we have had a rich history of these, whether it's seismic or hydrometeorological event. And also we have had some people, there's a school of thought today, it can be that, disasters are all man-made, I don't want to go down that road, but certainly they feel that even with the onset of climate change, and you listen to the discussion that is taking place that took place in Paris and in Glasgow, you tend to want to take a look at what these guys are saying. Are we responsible for the onset of climate change, and therefore adaptiveness has become a necessity and imperative going forward?
Well, I am not a scholar in that area. I am not an authority, so I have no idea. But I would like to know more about this. I would like to follow that conversation and to see where it goes.
Yeah.
But as we continue, tell me some of the things that you have planned in the celebration of your 25th anniversary.
So today, later on at around 9 o'clock, we kickstart with, a full program that speaks to a journey in terms of looking at behind the scenes, the past, the present, and also looking at the future as well as so where we go from here. To me, and there will be a number of man, especially coming out of event that we had last year in October. And certainly we want to, those events, this event will have, is just the tip of the iceberg, where we will hit the street sometime later down in the month, coming to the month end, where we will have an event in Scarborough, probably somewhere around this area. People buzz a lot.
Right.
And also in the Crown Point area. The following next month, we are in the major areas, such as we go to the east and reach some of the people. The objective is to allow people to become acquainted. When I would have spoke to you about the mission, our mission is one that transforms. You're looking for a transformed Tobago, a Tobago that is resilient, adaptive, people-centered, people-inclusive. And therefore, as we try to leverage the resources that are currently available to us, we will see that behind the curtains, these hit the street caravans will take place, and that caravan will take us to certain areas. We also feel very strongly that not enough persons understand we are 25 years of age, but when you look at divisions and other entities, 25 years is a short period for knowing. You have transcend taking place within divisions, and therefore we want to target even divisions within the Tobago House of Assembly to bring them on board or understand us. So we'll have visits coming to TEMA to see what TEMA does, or we are a unit within the Office of the Chief Secretary. You want to see our OCS partners come to TEMA and understand the doings of TEMA. Why TEMA asks us so much? Why TEMA want this and want that? If they understand where we are, then they can better understand us as a client. Right,
so it's a full public education
That's
drive.
Right.
Good. So that the Tobago public will be aware of the things that you do and the reason why you make demands for the resources that you require.
Wonderful sense.
Mr. Stewart, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning, for enlightening us, and we celebrate with you, and we thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing.
I want to thank the team as well. They have been doing, and those soldiers who have passed through our corridors, they have done a lot in terms of their delivery. And put us, so we stand on the backs of many giants who would have passed through the agency before. The Alan Richards and these people, they set the pace,
Right.
Good. Thank you very much.
So we thank you so much for being here, and we wish you all the very best. Congratulations on your achievements, and we look forward to more in the future. This is where we're going to take a break, but before we go to a break, we say share the live, share the live, share the live, and we'll be back with more.